Welcome back, Tech for Thought, where we break down the latest news in AI, finance, and technology. In our last episode, we explored the global AI race, Amazon's $100 billion investment in Anthropic, and the growing intersection of AI and finance. Today, we're going to take it a bit step further. We're going to talk about how AI is reshaping the energy infrastructure, sustainability, and data center demands. So I'll pass it off to Sahib.
Joining us for today's discussion is my esteemed colleague and friend, Ben Vollmer. Ben currently serves as the product and growth leader at RSM's Power Factory offering, where he brings a wealth of expertise in AI automation, low code, no code platforms, and enterprise technology. With a distinguished career spanning cloud computing and large scale business modernization, Ben has established himself as a leading voice in the tech industry. Ben, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for making the time. How are you doing?
Freaking awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. This is going to be fun.
I had a question actually. How did you guys meet?
Well, what was it? Maybe a year ago, you came to the firm I was working at, and uh, it was history after that.
Yesterday was my one day. Yesterday was my 1 day anniversary, actually. So it
Oh,
was about a year ago. I joined RSM, and I met you kind of first thing. I think you were working on a. You had just come over. You hadn't quite joined from the ERP team yet, and
right.
so
Yep. Yep.
we're kind of making that transition.
Yep.
Uh, and then
So,
we found out we had a bunch of things in common. And now here we are.
right. Good, became good friends, you know? But yeah, Aidan, want to go into
For
our deep
sure.
dive topic here?
Yeah, so like I said, we're talking about AI infrastructure and how basically the rapid expansion of AI technologies is influencing energy consumption and infrastructure development. Increased energy demand. So we're seeing now AI data centers are significantly boosting electricity consumption, which is leading to concerns about grid capacity and sustainability. And so we also see a lot of firms adopting the same kind of strategy. And it's just an interesting topic to talk about. And kind of wanted to walk through just a little bit about kind of like your background, or like, can you walk us through your career journey and what led you to focus on AI and the low code, no code landscape?
Yeah. So I guess I started my career. I was actually kind of blessed. I grew up in a very rural area, very small town, middle of nowhere. My dad, when I was a young child, 5 or 6 years old, bought our first computer for his office. It was and you guys are gonna laugh here. It was a Franklin Ace 1200, which if you're not familiar with, ran an operating system called CPM, which was a precursor to DOS. Um,
Okay.
it was the first, last, and only Apple II clone Apple ever authorized. So my dad was like, "Hey, you should learn this computer stuff, Ben. Here's this book, and it's called Basic from the Ground Up." And I can remember it. It's a
Hmm.
little book, and it had how to write BASIC, and I learned how to write BASIC as a young kid. Um,
Wow.
and then I went from there. My dad was an architect, so I learned a bunch of AutoCAD, and I learned what's
Oh,
called
wow. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
AutoCAD is this thing called AutoList, which are kind of
Uh-huh.
like batch files inside of AutoCAD.
Uh-huh.
I left where I lived and moved to Washington D.C. Joined a home inspection company, so was using my background of homes doing this. Became their IT guy for software development. So I built my first field service product. It was called Visual Office Manager, probably in
Uh-huh.
94, 95 in Foxborough
Wow.
in Visual
Uh-huh.
Basic. I picked up this product called Goldmine, which was a CRM contact manager from the 90s. So I was using this product called SBT Accounting, which was a Foxborough based ERP system. Picked up Goldmine. I called the guy who sold to me what they call a VAR, which is now kind of like a system integrator now. And I said, "Hey, David, I got some questions. How does this thing work?" And he came over and he goes, "Who did this?" I go, "I did." He goes, "No, you didn't." I go, "Yeah, I did." He goes, "No, you didn't." I go, "Yeah, I did." I go, "I wrote it." He goes, "Well, show me." So I said, "I don't show him how I wrote it." I was like 22, 23 years old.
Wow. Okay.
And he goes, "Want a job?" I'm like, "What?" Gold mine. I go, "All day? Like, that's my full time job?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah." And so that was kind of it. Went from that to work for a couple other one other small VAR, and then went to work for a company called General Electric. Ran their CRM practice for the Great Lakes region,
Hmm.
and then I kind of jumped over and started working in and I did a bunch of CRM products and a bunch of ERP products over time, and then I joined Microsoft. I was the sixth employee for Microsoft supporting Dynamics CRM, so I was an early CRM guy. Microsoft has this thing where they make you change jobs a couple times, and we had this thing we were selling at the time called XRM, which is anything relationship management, which looks suspiciously like Power Apps, model-driven apps today.
Interesting. So what's XRM for people who don't know? Like, what is that? An acronym for something?
Yeah, anything
Okay.
relationship management.
Okay, I
Okay.
see. Oh, X really? Okay, that makes sense. I thought that makes sense. Okay. So that's super interesting. So like you've worked with these major organizations and it sounds like what a lot of high level projects. What's one of the most exciting or challenging experiences you've had during that time or just in general?
Challenging. Well, I think here's what I'd say is I think you're gonna laugh. I think there's two types of people: those who run away from fire and those who run into the fire. Um, I love running into a fire. Like if there's at my last consulting firm before I joined Microsoft, my primary job was taking projects that were going completely and utterly sideways and twisted and helping write them.
Interesting.
And so I wish I could tell you that there was one that stood out. But I spent a couple of years doing nothing but fixing broken projects and loved it. But that same skill covers over because, like at Microsoft, you don't want to take over a sales territory, for example, that's on fire. Like a sales territory that's on fire means it's doing really, really well. I want the one that's in flames, the one that's going down and crashing and burning, because that's easier to rebuild than one that's already performing really, really well.
I see. Okay. That's super interesting.
I would just say I would just, if anybody's listening, if you're given the chance to take on challenging projects, don't look at the hair on it. Go figure out how to meet the challenge and go get it done.
Very cool. Yeah, and I agree with that same sentiment. I think just having the ability to solve those issues and think critically about it is very important. I think you understand that a lot as well. I do have a question more related to AI. So, what do you think is the biggest shift you've seen specifically in the AI and energy industry over the past decade?
I think I think AI. If you think about AI for a second, I mean, we're kind of captivated today by LLMs and by all the funness that is LLMs. But the truth of the matter is, AI and machine learning has been around for decades. The 50s, really. I think LLMs are an interesting gateway because it's kind of that magic thing. I mean, think about it. You guys may not be old enough, and I apologize because you're probably not, but like when Cortana first came out and Siri first came out and Alexa first came out, you're like, whoa, we can talk to this thing and it does something. Have you ever looked at what your most popular Alexa command is?
For
No,
me,
what
it's
is it?
Alexa.
Probably,
turn on
what's the
bedroom.
weather?
What's the weather? What's yours?
Night.
I don't know. I feel like Alexa's real good now, like especially with
What's
uh
your most popular command though? What is
oh, what's the weather?
what's the weather? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody else?
mine's turn on
Mine's-
the lights.
Yeah, mine's probably just turn on the lights.
Okay. Jacob, what's yours? Come on, man.
I don't know, probably to play like a playlist or music, something like that.
Okay. Mine's Alexa set a timer.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That makes
nice.
sense.
Sits in my kitchen. So when you think about it, we really haven't even. So when I think about LLMs, like when I first saw ChatGPT, I'm like, whoa, I can just ask it a question, and it responds. This is awesome. Like, and I don't have to put in, again, you have to, if you use Alexa, like, I have to go, Alexa, turn on the pantry lights.
You got to be careful here. You almost activated my.
She did turn on my pantry lights. But that becomes, like, I had to use a very exact term. My blinds are hooked into to my home automation system, and it drives me nuts because I'll come out in the morning. I'm like, Alexa, open the living room shades. I don't have a device called living room shades. Okay. Alexa, open living room blinds. Okay. Like those kind of things are kind of where I think we got to look at. So I think the biggest change I've seen is the ability to interact with these things in natural language, and not have to necessarily use the specific terms along with that.
Yeah, definitely a big issue with mine, at least. You would say something that's very similar, and of course Amazon product wouldn't necessarily find the exact product you're talking about to turn on. But I'm glad that they're introducing Anthropic and hopefully and Claude, and hopefully that makes it better for sure.
Well, but the part about energy here, though, I think really comes down to as we've moved to kind of cloud organizations as a whole, energy has become a critical underpinning of these things. The truth of the matter is, though, I actually think that it's not as big of energy consumption as we've had in the past. It's actually smaller, because if you think about how data centers are and have been, they've kind of been spread across, God's green earth, and they're everywhere. And now at least, the major providers are putting them all kind of in the same, like they're thoughtful and planful where they put them. Like, my wife's uncle worked for one of the credit card processors, and my wife's father worked for GE. And their data center, the GE data center, is now an IBM data center, but it's off Windward Parkway in Alpharetta. Like, who would pick that for a data center location today? Now, the advantage it had was there was a ton of dark fiber running a mile away, so it was beautiful. Like, we lived nearby there, and I had some great high-speed internet access everywhere. But that's kind of the limitation of what you see. Now, I think that being planful and thoughtful about your energy consumption is huge.
Would you say that these companies, they fully understand the energy demands of AI, or would you say that they're just now waking up to it?
But by these companies, I would say let's kind of separate the hyperscalers from the kind of the consumers of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the hyperscalers, I can tell you that Microsoft probably knows down to the nth of the penny what it costs to run a query. I know that from my old days. We tell you everybody here. I can tell you exactly what a Dataverse user costs.
That's interesting. How much does it cost?
I can't say that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, that makes sense. I was just interested. Yeah. No, that's no worries. I just think it's so interesting that they have so much data that they can even begin to put a price on what a user would cost. I find that so fascinating. But yeah, continue, please.
I think so. So I think the hyperscalers know exactly what each transaction costs, right? Do I think that somebody using the hyperscaler's infrastructure knows that transaction cost? No. Do they know how much their energy usage is? No. Do I think they care? No. So I think you've got to kind of separate out the arms dealer or the arms manufacturer from the person shooting the gun. Right? Like, the arms manufacturer is exactly what it costs to make the gun. The guy in the field, target practicing, doesn't know and doesn't care what that gun costs to run.
Right. Speaking about Microsoft, what do you think about their push to cancel a lot of their data center contracts that they had set up for the future?
So, I mean, there's two ways to do this here, right? One is you build your own data centers. And so you look like like there's a town in Oregon, I forget the name of it, that's all data centers now. Why? Because there's cheap energy right there from hydroelectric.
Right.
Wow, you were just talking about that, Chris.
Chris, if you get bored, go look up a little town called Penn, Pennyan, New York, and go look at the electrical costs for Penn versus the rest of Yates County. If you build a house in Penn, you're putting electric power in it.
Really?
because it's coming off of Niagara Falls and hydroelectric, and it costs next to nothing. Whereas if you build in the rest of Yates County, it's provided by NYSEG, which is not, from Niagara Falls, and so you're going to pay dearly. So if I was building a data center, where would I put it?
Absolutely. Um, yeah, absolutely going to be feeding off of that hydroelectric over there in Pinium. 100%.
It stands for Pennsylvania Yankees, by the way, is what PINYAN stands for, by the way, in case you ever get curious.
Really? Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely didn't know that. I'm from the middle of nowhere in Texas. I don't know anything about the whole Yankee thing, you know?
Henyan Finger Lakes. Interesting. Okay. That's so cool. Did not know that.
So I think when you see the contracts being canceled, though, what it is like, what's the, because some of the data centers they own, I guarantee you, Microsoft owns or owns virtually, and some of them are contract leases. So the question is, if I can buy a car and I'm gonna keep it forever, right? Or I can lease a car, and you need to redistribute your money. Where do you go? Do you cancel your lease, or do you sell the car you've already paid for?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm just gonna sell my car.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I would probably sell it too.
Well, I'd probably cancel my lease because I already own the car. It's an asset I already own.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah, but with a lease, you can get
Yeah,
a new
well-
car every time.
That's true though. You can, but that seems like a hassle though to do that, no? Like you got to fill out all that paperwork.
I mean, you're talking to a guy whose favorite car. Well, I mean, I drive a 10-year-old car every day and love it. I mean, the longest time I didn't even own a car. So, for me, keeping the car you own versus buying a lease or getting a new lease makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's, I think, of the data centers I think about too.
Gotcha. Yeah, that definitely seems like more of the sensible option. So then what do you think are the biggest challenges facing companies trying to integrate AI into just everything in general,
Well,
like business processes?
I mean, there's kind of there's two sides to it, right? So there's the software company side, there's the customer side. Okay. So I'm going to ask a question here. Is OCR AI?
I'm not too familiar with what OCR is.
Optical character recognition.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I'd say it's AI. Obviously, it
Form of it,
uses
yeah.
custom vision technology, so it's a form of AI. But it's not the true form of AI that other people think AI is.
So if I was building a product today that was AI enabled, and I rebadged my what I would normally just call, like Microsoft used to call the business card scanner, and now it's the AI sales agent.
Hmm.
Okay. Another company I was reading the other day, it was specializing in industrial AI. Their focus was like their OCR became an AI agent. I'm like they're using a 20-year-old off the shelf, open sourced OCR engine for this. But so on the software company side, what's driving that is valuation. So what's that company worth? When I go to sell that company, what's somebody willing to pay for? I think we're in an AI bubble right now, which is so software companies want to put AI in everything, and they'll do it twice on Sunday because they want to drive up their valuation. Customers want AI to streamline their operations and maintain a competitive advantage. So I think there's a dichotomy between what AI is and who's going to benefit from it and what they're doing for it is what's driving it. It's the AI engine, if you will, for valuation, and then the AI driver around making my company more effective and more competitive.
Very interesting. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that if you had to make a sort of like a bold prediction about the future of AI and energy, what would that be? Like, where do you see it going?
I think from the energy consumption perspective, so let's talk about energy consumption, right? I think it will go down. I mean, if you think about it, I don't. Did anybody hear a car nut? Anybody on the phone hear a car nut? Or am I losing my car connection?
It somewhat depends on how deep.
Yeah, like me too.
All right. So if you're rebuilding a car, you're building a car from scratch. You want an LS swap. You want to drop an LS1 into your whatever car you got, right? Just because you can. When you start that engine up, do you run that engine lean or do you run that engine rich? By meaning, do you put too much gas in that engine or do you put not enough gas in that engine?
I assume lean.
Yeah,
Too,
lean.
too much, I would say at first. No.
Yep, you almost always run that engine rich. Like if you ever been around somebody who starts a car engine for the first time, my God, it smells like unburnt gasoline. Okay, you're running so much through that engine just to get
Everything moving.
everything moving, and then once
Yeah.
it's all moving, then you kind of start dialing it back and getting it perfectly dialed in.
More efficient, and some people like then put like on dyno, for example.
When Microsoft 365 launched, well, we know it's not Microsoft 365. I was at Microsoft at the time. Like we had engineers running around doing all the provisioning work. It was a one-off operation. We churned through a ton of manpower getting those first customers up and running. Dynamics 365 or CRM Live or CM Online, whatever we would call it, was the same way. Like everything was manually provisioned. It was a manual process getting your first couple customers up and running. And so you think about it, for me, energy is no different, which is you're going to consume a bunch of it. And then once you've understood what you're doing and what you can tweak and tune, you're going to turn it down.
Yep. I also think at some point, I mean, we've already seen OpenAI they're trying to get as much money as they can, and they want you to spend what $20,000 for what they call a PhD level.
Yeah,
level
the new
assistant.
model. I did see that.
I think at some point we're going to see a lot of these companies going to more smaller niche AI models that they've trained on their specific use cases. Because I just think that these large language models, while they're cool and they might have their applications, I think small language models are definitely going to be a big chunk of the future here for a lot of these companies, especially companies in the middle market and small business as well.
Well, if you think about it for a second, think about. Let's look at. We can look at CRM. We can look at ERP. I don't care. Pick one. You guys pick one. ERP or CRM. Pick one.
ERP. CRM. I said CRM.
Okay. Well, let's do both. What's the market share, do you think, of SAP?
Oh,
They probably got a pretty
pretty large chunk of it, I'd imagine.
Okay.
SAP, Salesforce, all those.
Well, the Salesforce is CRM, but think about ERP for a second. And the ERP side, SAP has a decent market share. Okay. I got to find the exact number here. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. So SAP has the biggest market share in ERP vendors is a category called others. Okay, that is the biggest vendor in the ERP space is one called other, and it's not even like 50%. We're talking like 80% is other. Now, if you take CRM, for example, Salesforce.com has the largest by revenue market share, the way they categorize it. And they're at about 20% market share. Microsoft is about 8 to 12% market share. Oracle's, 6 to 8. And then it kind of goes off from there. But of that market share, more than 50% of the CRM market is defined by other. And so what you almost have to think about here, when you think about this kind of the arms race we're in with AI, is micro vertical applications are really where companies, especially SMB and lower end of mid market, they want to look. You don't buy a generic field service product. You don't buy a generic ERP product. And even think about, see where we work. We have, a solution for food and bev. We have a solution for government contracting. So even the larger end of mid-market and below end of enterprise want to buy things tailored just for their industry.
Right.
And so that's where that 50%, I think you're going to see a ton of kind of micro vertical apps kind of in that long tail as they go down.
Right, man. I think that that's also a big reason why Perplexity is so popular, because they don't even have their own proprietary model. They basically just find a problem that these large language models have, and then create a tailored solution that utilizes those models, but create a tailored solution to business problems that they see that other companies have, and they're doing really well right now. They've taken Anthropic. So Anthropic essentially created this MCP, um, I guess you'll say, protocol that essentially allows you to integrate technologies without actually having to do a lot of code, right? So what Anthropic did, or what Perplexity did, rather, is they took Anthropic's technology that they created to essentially solve one of the biggest problems that Claude had. Claude Anthropic was it didn't have access to the internet. So they took that MCP protocol and connected it to the internet without having to do very much code, and solved one of the biggest issues that this big AI company had. And I think, to your point, yeah, it's definitely going to be um, in the future where you're going to want to have these apps that are tailored to your business rather than using generic large language models.
And if you look at, like Tom Siebel, the guy who founded Siebel Software, which is now part of Oracle's CRM product, he was kind of a pioneer in enterprise software. He has enterprise AI that gets a similar thing. He tailors it back towards the verticals. I think you're going to start seeing, what you really see is, you see the hyperscalers provide the tools. Again, they provide the tools. Think about your car first. I'm going to pick a car. Pick a car, okay? Hey, give me a car. Come on, one of you guys give me a car.
Runner.
Forerunner.
A 4Runner?
Yeah, Forerunner is good.
4Runners are bad.
Yeah, okay. How about this?
Wow.
1950 67 Ford Fastback.
No, 4Runners are a good example. So the frame of the 4Runner shares a frame with what? So what's a 4Runner share its frame with?
I mean, like the other platform, the other vehicles that use the platform, or
Yeah. What other vehicles share that platform with the 4Runner?
well, I'm assuming they're Tacoma, probably. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, but it's the Lexus GX460 or 470,
Okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah,
and it's the Land Cruiser Prado. Okay, those
yeah.
are
On
both
top of it.
off the 4Runner platform. That engine is shared with what other cars?
So I mean, a lot of luxury cars.
I mean,
Well, the Lexus engine shared with the Tundra. I think it was shared with the 4Runner for a little bit. That 6-cylinder shared with the Tacoma. Okay.
okay.
But my favorite thing is, if you ever get behind the wheel of a Toyota, up until recently, look at the cruise control stick. So I'm giving you an idea. I have a 1992 Land Cruiser in my garage. Okay, I've got a 2020, I've got 2015 GX460, a Tundra, and a Corolla. Okay, they all have the exact same cruise control stick.
The little one in the back, like on the bottom, or
They all have the same flipping steering wheel, for that matter. So when you think about it, like, a lot of times what they're doing is they're reassembling the same pieces. Right? Like, I always love when somebody's like, well, I don't want to go below the ground, so I'm going to go buy a Tiguan. Or I don't want to drive a Camry, so I'm going to drive an RX 350. And I'm like, an RX 350 is just a Camry that's a station wagon, you idiot. I think what you're going to see is the vertical manufacturers are going to assemble them for micro verticals and for places they go, but the pieces are going to be from other places. It's going to be assembly action. We're going to assemble from other places, I think. So I think that's where the future gets to, is assembling these things to meet your customer needs. From that perspective.
With that in mind, as someone who is heavily involved in like investing, especially like a long-term future, would you say to avoid this bubble, like you mentioned, we are in? Would you invest in those companies that are providing those tools? Is that like the strategy that you'd recommend to our listeners, or in general, to
I'm a
navigate?
different type of investor, probably. I'm a value investor, Jacob. So
Okay,
I'm going to go invest in laggards that are going to figure it out 5 years from now.
gotcha.
Okay, because they're a good deal right now today. But if I was not a value investor and I was a more growth or a more speculative investor, I mean, you're a little further behind me in my investment journey. If you want to, I'm 15 years from retirement, so I'm not doing speculation at this point. I think actually it's funny. My dad and I were talking today, and I went out and bought a bunch of Intel.
Hmm.
Call me crazy, but to me, Intel is they're going to figure it out. Like they haven't figured it out yet. NVIDIA's eating their lunch. They're going to figure it out.
They
They're
got
too
to,
big.
yep.
They're in every computer known to mankind. AMD kind of got the jump on them. Yeah, they're going to fight back if they got a brain about their body, which I hope they do. So we bought a little bit of Intel together. But I'm going to bet on the Intels, the Microsofts, the Googles. I am not going to bet on. I did a lot of due diligence before joining RSM, and the amount of AI I saw that was Excel formulas was scary. If then else, that's really scary. So I would much rather look at some other things that are going to provide the tools for that arms race.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like, especially with all this TSMC news, how we get the $100 billion investment into the chip manufacturing into United States, I feel like it's set up for success. Sorry, what were
right.
we going to say, Sab?
No, I mean, I was just saying, like, AI obviously is going to, obviously, it's a big part of the future. And I know there are a lot of people who have reservations about what the future holds. And I know there are a lot of young people going into college thinking, like, I don't know where I should put my energy. Should I go into what I love? Should I go into this one area of my career where I don't necessarily know how AI will impact it? So Ben, what do you think for people who want to get into this space? What's the best way to start learning and building this expertise?
So I think, for me at least, and my 18-year-old son is going to school now, so I'll tell you the same thing I told him. He's going to get his degree in data science. Okay, so to me, this all starts with the data. If you think about it, figuring out your data, I paid a lot of money in my life to have people help me figure out data.
Right.
And so I would say start with it. But here's the funny part for me is, and maybe this is just me being an old fuddy-duddy. If you think about, like, the first database I learned was a D-based database. Then I learned FoxPro, and then I learned Microsoft Access, and then I learned SQL Server and some Sybase and some Oracle. I learned a whole bunch of, like, I'll be honest, they're the same things. Like, I'm doing Cosmos stuff today, and it's 80% of what I had to learn 20%, right? But the foundation of select star from where is still the foundation of
20 years later, right?
30
That's
years later. Yeah.
it just reminded me of my database class. You remember, Jacob? Uh, yeah, it was fun.
But your database class, I mean, what you learn in database class is actually what you're using today. I mean, you're going to continue to use it today. You're not. So I think find things and then keep learning. Don't go, oh, I learned databases and I stopped learning at databases. Like always be looking at what's the next database and how do I pivot there. And so if I was doing this today, I'd say two things. One is focus on the data, but then also focus on, I think people who do computer science in school are fascinated with bits and bytes. No, we need those people. But what we need people to do is we need, one of the best developers I've ever worked with had his degree in philosophy. The other developers on the team kind of hated him, and his position was: does this code want to be written? What is this code's purpose in life? Where does it want to go when it grows up? To be code or not to be code? Sorry, that was not philosophy, but that is a way more better approach to it than just somebody who sits down and hacks and writes code. And I would say don't get time locked. If you learned, like, I quit learning languages a long time ago. I'll be honest with you. I did. I quit learning languages a long time ago, but I keep enough of the languages to understand what they do. Can I sit down and write in C# today? It'd take me a couple of weeks to figure my stuff out to get it done, but I could do it. But don't quit learning about that. If you're going to be a database developer, don't get stuck on Oracle 8G and stay at Oracle 8G for the rest of your life. Like, go learn the new stuff, and don't yell at the clouds and go, they're taking my jobs away. Go embrace it.
Adapt.
Yeah, adapt 100%.
I would say I have a question. So like if someone were what news or resource outlets that do you use to get your information or to just learn about these things in general?
I think a couple ways. My peers in other organizations. I learned from a lot of peers in other organizations. I'm a voracious reader of anything I get my hands on. Like, I don't care. Like, if somebody mentions something to me, the first thing I do is I go and type in the search engine and I go try to find out what that thing is and go hunt it down. And then I start reading about it. And you guys are gonna laugh at me here. There's a bunch of subreddits I follow that so Dave can tell you, I send him probably about once a week a Reddit link to something funky, cool, and interesting I saw.
Yep. It's always interesting.
What subreddit, if you don't mind?
There's actually, I follow probably. I'm looking here. You don't want to see my subreddit following list. It's I'm just looking right now. It's everything from Peter explained the joke to autonomous lawnmowers to
lawnmowers.
Oh my goodness.
Subreddit specifically for autonomous lawnmowers.
Yeah.
Is that what you have in your house? You said you have an autonomous house. Is that you have one of those?
I do not have an autonomous. I want to get one, so I'm trying to research which one I want.
Gotcha.
I do get one. I subscribe to the home automation ones. I subscribe to product management ones. There's actually an RSM. Actually, my favorite part was before I joined RSM, there's a consulting subreddit. Somebody has describing. I'm like, you work for RSM, don't you? The dude went dark and deleted his account.
You're never gonna hear from me again. Went dark.
That wasn't quite what I was looking for, but hey, I think that also, like, talking to your peers, though. You're gonna laugh. People don't do enough reaching out and talking to your peers, and it doesn't have to be a long, drawn out. I was talking to somebody who I used to work with, who's now on a bunch of boards, and is fairly active in the private equity investment community. And we were talking about AI valuations today. We had about a 30-minute conversation around valuations and how they work and what the bubble looks like, and that for me. Like, I gave him my perspective, he gave me his, and I walked away going, I got some new learnings today. And so I would just say, do that all you can.
I love talking to people about these emerging technologies or the types of industries that they work in, because that helps me in my job, right? We touch so many different industries. We touch food and beverage. We touch life sciences. We touch manufacturing. We touch retail.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely piggybacking off what you said, I'd say just get a wide array of people from different backgrounds, and just talk to them. Just understand how they think, understand how they solve business problems within their specific industries, within the service lines that they work in, and just gain as much knowledge as you can, because knowledge is power, and the future, you don't necessarily know what the future is going to hold, and you might have to pivot to a certain industry or to a different service line, and you'll have that knowledge to help you in the future.
I do that to Sahib all the time.
Well, harass him. I think it's a good thing. You know, I'll
Oh
pay
yeah.
for harassment.
You're on Power Factor. Give me some knowledge on that.
Whoa,
That
whoa. That's a good one.
I'm gonna start charging, Chris.
Charged by the
yeah,
hour.
well,
He's gonna charge that premium.
Yeah, get that premium knowledge. What is that? $20 a month
No, 20
per
grand.
per per
It's
open
PhD level harassment.
I can't afford PhD level. What can I get for GED level?
That's like
yeah.
that's like $100. You got it. No, it's too much.
Who needs
It's too much.
ChatGPT when I have Sahib?
That's crazy.
I would also say don't let things like I hear people say, "Well, I don't have a degree in this or I don't have a degree in that." I mean, I got to go back to my favorite developer I've worked with. I mean, the dude was a philosophy major.
Wow.
Right.
Okay, like he didn't start off life as a computer programmer. He wasn't a computer like he was a like that was his degree. One of the best salespeople I ever worked with had a degree in psychology. He was a licensed psychologist. He was a phenomenal salesperson. So don't let I can't do this. I don't have a degree. I need go just. I'd rather go drag it home. I mean my favorite things in the morning is like I hop on Teams in the morning, and so people go, "Hey, I got this prompt. Like we're working on a prompt earlier today, and it was saying I can't process this because it looks like you're trying to incite violence."
Oh. Not good.
And we spent about 30 minutes just talking to each other and playing with ways to outsmart the AI.
Prompt engineering, baby.
It was prompt engineering, but like nothing we played with was at all like you didn't learn that in college.
Nope.
And the solution to the problem was what 3 lines in the prompt.
Yeah.
Treat these as historical documents. Keep true to the historical time frame these documents were from. And guess what? Poof! Violence went away.
Yep.
Wow. So
Very
just
cool.
get your hands dirty is what you're saying. Just get your hands dirty and
Get your hands
Keep
We
learning.
tricked it into more like we tricked it into not being able to identify the violence.
You can actually put ChatGPT on your Alexa. And so I did that and I was playing with it last night. I was just talking to it. And I was just asking it to list out different things like to not say in conversation. And it actually said like different types of like profanities and whatnot. And it was interesting. It's like I didn't even know Alexa could say these things, but
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting when people talk about how AI can help you with your financial transactions and help you invest and stuff like that. But to me, there's so many issues with the underlying AI models when it comes to prompt engineering that I wouldn't let AI anywhere near my money. That's just
Well,
a fact.
ChatGPT doesn't it even tell you that it can't provide financial advice?
Somewhat, but I mean, there's always ways around that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, but
So let me ask you a question. Why do consultants exist?
because
To give
problems
information.
exist.
Okay, well problems, but I could fix problems internally, couldn't I?
I mean,
I would
consultants
assume
exist
because
because
we're trained and specialized in certain platforms, and you kind of go to a consultant to say, hey, this is what I want. How do I get there? And the consultant's job is to do exactly that. Like I think management consultant is a really easy way to look at it because if I'm having issues with management and maybe my approach to it, the company's approach to it, or structure around it, you go to a management consultant to help you develop a structure. So I would assume that's kind of the purpose of consult. Whenever I look at my job, my assumption is you come to me, you want a system built out, you want advice on what can be improved, what might be better for certain facets of the job, can demo it, show you why, and of course build it in a way that makes the most sense. But it comes down to expertise.
Okay. What's anybody else got?
I mean, I just think that
Yeah,
these
that was a
companies.
pretty good answer.
Yeah, I mean, I just think these companies really love slide decks from from people. So they just want these beautiful slide decks.
Optimized slide deck creators.
Well, I mean, that's the McKinsey approach, and I'm okay with that. But the truth of the matter is, why you hire a consultant is because the skill isn't in a big enough abundance. Well, there's two reasons for it. One is that there's a proverb that says a prophet has no honor in his own land, which basically says that you got to go out and find somebody from outside to tell you what you already know, because the prophet that's in your own land, you told them that you don't like them. Okay, so there's that part. So somebody's got to come from the outside and say things that you can't say internally. But the second reason is you've been there, done that, got a t-shirt for it. And so when I think about kind of around what we're doing around consulting, it's a lot of, ChatGPT is never going to, LLMs are never going to eliminate consultants. My dad's an architect. My dad's like, well, what's this? He's 80, so he's not practicing. But he's like, what's this going to do? I'm like, well, Dad, the truth of the matter is the only reason you exist in life is because you ask questions that you know the questions to ask are. Right? And so I think what's got to happen is you got to know the questions asked. So as a consultant, when you get put on a project, you have a list of questions you ask that you go down and say, do we have bloop, 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 bloop? And that's because last time you did the project, somebody forgot bloop, and the project went sideways, right? And so knowing bloop, 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 bloop allows you to be better at what you're doing. I think we have to kind of think about, when we think about our jobs and LLMs and everything else, we have to think about how are we going to ask the questions. Because asking that question is the question you ask is more important than anything else that you're doing. And that for me is actually what's more important right now is the question you're asking of an LLM. I mean, like having that information to ask that question is more the most important thing to do.
Right. I mean, that's a big thing, right? So when you're asking an LLM a question, first you got to put it in the frame of mind, right? Just like anybody. Like if I just ask, how do I do this? You're not going to understand what I'm referring to. I could be referring to how do I change the engine oil in my car, or how do I write a fantastic email or something. So when it comes to an LLM, it's the same thing, right? You need to give it the context, then you need to give it a certain number of steps if you want it to do something for it to actually be able to do it. And I think that's a thing a lot of people don't understand is they use ChatGPT once, or they use another LLM once, and they ask like a pretty generic question, and they expect the LLM to know what they're talking about, and then they're just like, I don't know why people think LLMs are so great. I asked it this question and it couldn't even do it.
Yeah, you have to kind of like lay it out on all the logic out. I think it's called a chain of thought as the prompt. It's like you give the LLM some context and a little bit of backstory and whatnot, and it allows you to give it more like it gives you a better answer basically. I thought that DeepSeek actually, I was playing around with it. I thought that it actually, like when it laid out the logic, that was super cool to see. I never thought like an LM actually went through the whole entire steps, and then it shows you how it got to the end answer. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with reasoning models.
I think
They reason.
Explainable AI is going to be a big thing. Like explaining why the AI got to the determination it got to is going to be a big thing. I don't think today, like OpenAI doesn't know a lot of times why ChatGPT got to where it got to. It just knows it got there.
A very confident answer always, but it doesn't. It could be the wrong wrong answer, and it'll still say it's right.
But I think we've got to figure out how to. No, what I do just from my own LLM, by the way, what I do at the end of it is I put this in my traits and customizations. After the response, please provide 3 follow-up questions. What is as though I'm asking you? Please format in bold as Q1, 2, and 3, and put a line break before and after each question. And what that does to me is that lets me know when I ask it a question or tell it to give me something, if it comes back with the 3 questions, they're completely way off base. I know my question going in sucked.
Right.
And so I've got to redo my question to get it to the reason on what I'm doing.
I like that.
It's a good strategy.
That is
It's a good way to do it. For me, I just constantly rewrite my question. Jesus, I can't talk today. But yeah, I mean, usually I just go and rewrite the question. Or if I if I ask a dumb question, I can see let's take O3 Mini, for example. I can just see it thinking. It's like, well, I think he's talking about this, but he also mentioned this. So I'm not really sure what he's talking about, but I'm just going to go with it. And you're just like,
Oh, what's this?
That's my personal prompt, by the way, that I have fed in as my personalization prompt.
oh, gotcha. Okay.
And that actually helps me quite a bit because I find that people, again, they kind of treat it almost, I don't know. When you guys get a new computer, do you ever customize it, or you just leave the taskbar where it's at and the
You
color
gotta
scheme?
customize it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta
Definitely
customize
gotta
it right away.
customize it.
Right away.
Especially Windows, what comes with all this bloat.
Oh. I had a friend of mine the other day tell me that I would be smarter if I stopped using Microsoft product.
Oh, you call that a friend? I'm just kidding.
You know, with friends like that. I will tell you, I'm having fun watching one of our colleagues, one of Sahib and I's colleagues. He just got a MacBook for his personal machine, and watching him stumble through adapting to Mac OS has been an amazing journey for me.
For me.
I used the Mac once, never again. I didn't
Honestly,
like it.
yeah, same. I don't like Mac too much. Microsoft and Windows are superior.
I mean, even Linux. I'll take Linux over Mac.
Linux is crazy though. I've seen like little compilations of people using Linux, and then you'll just hear their keyboard banging the entire time. And it's just like, what are you doing, man? I just want to open a browser. That's it.
I've recently become a fan of I've avoided a lot of containerization and virtualization over. I started doing Docker on my home lab, and I've become a Docker convert. Like that is the holy grail for me of installing software.
Yeah, I mean, I love Docker. Whenever I create these, like, I know I show you them all the time, all these crazy AI apps that I develop, and I turn them into what are those Azure web apps? All I do is I turn it into a Docker image, send it to the web server, and turn it into a web app.
That sounds so easy. What's the how does that work? So like Docker is where you do all this stuff from?
Yeah, so essentially you build your regular program, right?
Mhm.
Then you essentially create a Docker file. Docker file basically tells it everything to do. And then you also create a requirements.txt file to essentially tell Docker to build the image with these requirements in it. So if you need like certain libraries for your program to run, you basically tell Docker to, while it's creating the Docker image, hey, install these dependencies in the image, and then
Wow.
initialize the program, and then now you have a container image that has your entire program in it, and now you can apply it to like an Azure web app or another service like that to essentially create a web version of your app.
Wow.
Yeah.
Super interesting. You got to show me how to do that one day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, once my new desktop comes, I'll be making a lot of videos. So I'll create some
Oh.
videos on Docker. I'll create some videos on AI. So we'll see.
I'll just add it to my list, Sahib.
Yeah. You got to show me how to do
Multiple
that.
things.
Queuing you up.
But yeah, Ben, it was great talking to you today.
Thank you
Yeah.
personally, Ben. I learned a lot definitely just from listening to your stories, as well as just like your advice of what to invest in, just questions I asked about stuff like that. So I really appreciate your time. And yeah, just wanted to thank you personally.
Thanks, guys, for having me on. And if I can ever help, let me know. I'm here to talk more.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Talk to you later,
Thank
Ben.
you. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ben. Really appreciate it.